Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Notes and Quotes podcast. Today, if you are watching on YouTube, you can see is very different. I'm in a different kind of setup. I'm still at the same desk that I always film at, but I'm in like a different setup right now. And I'll admit, I'm still getting used to it. Like even now, I'm still moving things around, like moving wires around and stuff, because I'm trying to figure out the best way to look on camera. I'm still like so uncomfortable. But I just wanted to try something new today. I don't know why. I just felt compelled to try like a new kind of setup. And I'm filming this episode like maybe however long this episode takes until I go to bed, and I'm going to bed right after I do this episode, which is why I'm also low key in my pajamas. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Anyway, what are we talking about today? So today we're talking climate. Everyone knows that we've done a number on the planet. You really don't have to be a scientist or an activist to know that the stuff that humans love to do has also been slowly killing us because of all the emissions that most of our daily practices actually emit. I think most people are at least somewhat aware of all of the impacts that we've been having, or at least the majority of the impacts that we've been having on the planet. But it's not really that easy or feasible for everyone to just transform their lives into like a zero emission, living off the grid kind of life. It's certainly not for me. I'm way too indoctrinated into the modern way of the world sometimes. So like things like just not using cars or not, using planes if I have to travel countries, or just not using any form of like electricity or anything like that. That's not something that I think is realistic for most people. And then also there's the issue of like for some reason sustainability and being sustainable and making sustainable choices in our world tends to be quite expensive. And I'm a girl on a budget, so I can't like be shopping solely from sustainable brands all the time. I can't be buying only sustainable products, and I can't be like, just making every single sustainable choice that there is. It's just not always feasible. However, I do know that we need to do something if we want to have a planet to live on in like the next decade. I'm still very much an advocate for that, and I acknowledge how important sustainability is. So today, I set on a mission to find out how we can be sustainable on a budget, and that's what we're getting into today. How can you be sustainable on basically a broke budget? And the reason I've set it at kind of like a broke budget is because I don't know where everyone is at financially. And I feel like if I set it at potentially the lowest bar, it's good because it makes it more feasible for almost everybody. Everyone can kind of make these choices in their lives to make their lives more sustainable. And that leads perfectly into the quote for today, because I think there's this misconception when people talk about sustainability and making climate friendly choices. The thing is, it's perfectly as Marie Bonneau says. She says that we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. And that's exactly what I try to stress to everyone that I speak to about this kind of stuff. And that's exactly what I'm going to try to stress today with you. You don't need to be perfect in your sustainable choices. You just need to be as imperfect as you can be, but still be doing something. And I think it's also really important because we making small choices makes things easier, because there's now become this level of intense apathy to the climate crisis and to sustainability and to anything environmentally related, because people just think that there's no hope and we're all going to die anyway, so why even care, why even try to make a difference? And I think that's just a bunch of bullshit. One, breaking it up into small things that you can do every day makes it seem more doable in terms of like what you can do to help the planet, as opposed to like fixing all the massive issues. That's way too overwhelming to process. But if it's in small changes, it's easier. But then also there's whilst you have that, you still need to keep the mentality of small changes and individual effort actually does make a difference, because there's just this bullshit mentality going around where people think that individual actions don't actually matter, or they don't matter in the grand scheme of things, because it's just like a drop in the pot and nobody is actually it's not gonna impact the world. Like one person's actions are not gonna change the world, which if you look at it at face value, yeah, one person's actions are not going to change the world. However, if we have everybody giving a drop in the pot, then the pot will be full. You know what I mean? So if we have, and we're not going to have every single person on the planet making these choices and making these changes, but if we have a handful of people doing it, it makes a difference in their area. If we have a handful of people who influence another handful of people, then that makes a difference to two areas. You know what I mean? So it's just like your small choices do make a difference. So I don't understand why people don't get that. But anyway, I'm gonna jump into the episode today. So let's start with the episode. So I figured the best and easiest way to do this is figure out what are the top emission producing things that we do in our everyday lives that are most common to kind of everybody. And we came across 5 things when I started doing the research. So household energy, just like gas, electric, light bill, water bill, that kind of thing. Transport, like cars, planes, ships, how we get around. Purchasing goods, just everyday goods, whatever it may be, whatever you purchase on a day-to-day basis. Online shopping, massive thing as well. And then food waste. Food waste tends to be one of the biggest things that tends to be overlooked a lot. I think humans have just an astonishing amount of food waste on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, those are the 5 main things that are the top emitting, producing activities, I guess I could call it, in everyday life. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these 5 things and figure out some more sustainable habits for our everyday lives in relation to those 5 things. So let's start with number 1, household energy. So this one is actually extremely easy, almost no effort really. I mean, the other ones that you're going to learn, I mean, you have to have minimal effort, but this one, I mean, honestly, you could be doing this like as we speak. So first, and also before I even say, every single one of these is not only beneficial for the planet, it's not only beneficial for your future, but it's also beneficial for you in the now, because most of these actually are cheaper than what your daily practices might be, and it actually saves you money. For example, the first thing in terms of making sure you have more sustainability with your household energy is turning off lights when you leave a room. First of all, that's going to massively help your light bill. And also, how many times have you said, okay, I'm just going to go to the bathroom, or I'm just going to go to the fridge, or I'm just going to go like greet somebody that just entered my home, and you leave the light on, and then you forget and you end up going into like another room or doing something else, and the light's been on for God knows how long? That happens to me all of the time. I think my mom would have probably, if she was making this list, put it at the top of the list. Turn the lights off when you leave a room. And my mom is not like super sustainable person. She's just like, I don't want my light bill to be, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So can we just turn the light off when we leave the room? Even if it's just you going to the bathroom and coming back, that what, I don't know, 2 minutes that you spend in the bathroom, it's going to make a difference if it's accumulating over time for the entire month. So turning the lights off when you leave your room is, or any room in your house, is going to be so beneficial, not only for you, but also just for your energy usage. This one is actually really interesting, and I learned it a few years ago when I started reading more about sustainability. And I think it's called like phantom energy or something like that. Basically, when you forget or just don't unplug your electronics when you're not using them. The thing is, I didn't know that when you don't unplug things from the sockets, it actually contributes to about 5 to 10% of your total household energy consumption. That's still taking up energy when it's plugged in and like the plug is turned on. That's still sucking up energy to that plug, even if it's not plugged into anything, even if it's not using something. Let's say you've got your toaster plugged in and you don't really use your toaster that much. You use it just maybe once every morning, if that. Unplug the toaster or turn the switch on the plug off, so that energy isn't running through to that toaster, because it actually takes up so much more energy than you really realize. Once again, you're helping your energy bill, you're helping your finances, and you're also helping the planet. It's a no-brainer. This one's kind of like a bit of a life hack in a way. Well, not really a life hack. I think it's just I don't want to sound I sound a bit like a bitch when I say this, but it's just kind of common sense. Only running full loads on clothes that you're washing or air drying clothes if and when you can. Let's say it's summer and you have a clothesline or something, or you have like a drying rack and air drying your clothes. Even in the winter you can air dry your clothes. It takes a bit longer, but you can still do it if you're doing it on the inside of your house instead of outside on a clothing line, or doing only full loads in the dishwasher as well. Why on earth would you throw two pieces of clothing or two dishes into the dishwasher or into the washing machine and run a full like washing cycle on that? That doesn't make any form of sense. It's so wasteful. We already have water scarcity problems happening across the globe. Why would you why would you do that when you can just wait, strategically build up your dishes or build up your clothing that needs to be washed to a full cycle and run full loads? You know what I mean? I feel like that, once again, helps your water bill, helps you, helps the planet. And then I think this one actually is less common sense and more on the life hacking front. So, smart practices during seasons. Let's say that you live in a country which has seasons. I have come from Barbados. I feel like, do I say that every episode? I feel like that's getting annoying now. I'm so sorry if I say that every episode, but I have come from Barbados, so I'm not used to seasons. I think the reason I say it every episode is because there's so many times where it comes up into relevant conversation because there's just so many differences between Barbados and the UK. But because I came from a country that doesn't have seasons, it was very shocking to me the differences. If that doesn't make sense, but let me explain. One, people who live in countries with seasons definitely have more clothes because they need different types of clothing for every season. And then also they use so much more energy because of just heating and insulation and hot water and all this stuff. Like just all these different energy usage, it happens so much, just all the energy usage happens so much more in countries that experience, for example, winter. Hey, I'm interrupting this episode briefly to talk to you about something that's actually quite cool. We've launched a special fundraiser in partnership with the British Red Cross. Now, this podcast is all about community, and for communities to thrive, we need to support each other. The British Red Cross supports millions of people in the UK and across the world get the support they need when the crisis strikes. Their Quest for Kindness campaign is all about helping people spread the word of kindness online and raise money for the world's emergency responders. From natural disasters to conflict zones, the Red Cross is there. And now we can be too. If you want to join the kindness movement, it's extremely easy. You can use the link in the show notes to head to our fundraising page to donate or take part in our fun community polls. Polls like, what's your mood today? Do you prefer a dog or a cat? Or what superpower would you choose? Every click and contribution helps support people in crisis around the world. Let's show the world what kindness and a little bit of fun can do. Thanks for listening. But when I did some digging, there are some smart practices that you can use to reduce your household energy usage during seasons. So let's say it's winter or just one of the cold seasons. So let's say winter, autumn, or spring, to be honest, because spring is still quite cold. You can seal the windows and door gaps with weather stripping to retain heat. So that's a very creative one because obviously the little cracks under the door, the little cracks in your windows and stuff will let the cold seep in. And not everyone can afford to just have their heating running all the time. I remember there was this one night where my brother went into the kitchen and he opened up the window because he was cooking something and he didn't want to stink up the whole kitchen. So he opened the window to cook, but it was the middle of the night. I think he was tired and he forgot to close the window again. The kitchen was freezing cold and our heater responds, it just tries to regulate the temperature in the room. So it was working overtime to get it to the regular temperature because the window was wide open. And our energy bill that month was just ridiculous because of instances like that. So you have no idea how much your energy usage could actually be reduced by just making sure that places in which you can be smart, you are using weather stripping to hold in heat in those gaps where the cold can seep in is really smart. During the summer, opening windows, I mean, super easy. If you've got blackout curtains, one thing that I found is really useful is just closing your blackout curtains over the windows during the really hot hours of the day. And that retains that colder temperature, or cooler temperature rather, and avoids that heat coming into your room or your house or whatever and just making it extremely hot. That can actually be a really smart kind of life hack into just natural cooling. And then now, if we move on to transport, so I think transport is one of those areas where it's most obvious about emissions and whatnot, because we see, cars and the emissions from planes and the emissions from like everyday travel. One thing that is completely free, and actually very good for you and very healthy, walking or cycling. Now, I know that not everybody can walk or cycle wherever you are because one, a lot of people have to commute to work in far distances. Two, not everybody lives in walkable areas. I know that, for example, America is not a very walkable country. I know that parts of Barbados are not very walkable. The UK can be walkable in some instances, but you still need to drive. So I know, but what I'm saying when I mention walking or cycling if you can is if you live in an area where you go to places that are short distances, if you can walk there or if you can cycle there, do. If it's only like a mile or 2 miles, I feel like that's okay to cycle that or to even walk it, because honestly, it's so, so, so good for your health. And let's say you have to go like carry some things, get a little bike basket and live that like cool kind of Pinteresty soft girl kind of life. I hate being, trendy with my wording. It makes me cringe, but honestly, it's something that actually is really, really, really beneficial for you and obviously for the planet as well. And it feels really good doing it. It really does feel good doing it. You might not think so before you do it. You might dread it, but whilst you're doing it and once you get into it, it's actually like, why have I not been doing this the whole time? Oh, and also, obviously, save money on gas. Okay, so trains. Trains actually surprised me. I didn't know this, and I know probably people are going to be like, how the hell did you not know that? I feel like that's common knowledge. So you can laugh at me or shame me if you want. But when I was looking at the different emission levels for types of transport, trains are at, I think, the bottom or near the bottom of the list in terms of emissions. They still have emissions, obviously, but you know, compared to planes, compared to cars, compared to motorbikes or buses, trains are actually pretty low. But I know taking the train can be a bit expensive. So if you try to offload some of that cost with getting a rail card, if your country has a rail card, in the UK they have this rail card system where you can just kind of buy a card and it reduces some of the price of trips. Or if you travel in like the off peak season or off peak times of the day, then that can help reduce the cost of travel for trains. And this is just, one of those ways in which you can actually make transport even more fun, because you can have a day on the train and just look out the window, bring a book, bring a crossword, bring your phone, bring a good playlist, bring a friend, and just have a day on the train and enjoy the sights and enjoy the experience. I love taking the train. Honestly, I wish I could take the train more often. It's just where I go. I don't really need to take the train. But if you need to take the train, these are ways that you can make it a bit cheaper and more sustainable and eco-friendly. Also, carpooling. I think I'm going to gloss over this one a bit because it's a bit of a given. If you want to reduce cost of travel, if you want to reduce cost of trips, if you want to be more sustainable, carpooling is an obvious one. If you and somebody else are going the same place, why not carpool? Recently, I started carpooling with this new colleague of ours who lives in the same area as I do. And she has been such a gem. She's been so lovely because my car's actually been out of commission for a little bit. I recently got a new one, but the other car that I had was out of commission and it was just like a bit of a mess. So I was taking the bus all the time, which was fine. I actually really enjoy taking the bus. But she realized that she lives in the same area as me and she was taking me to and from work because it was basically the same trip. And then we were saying, when I actually get my car back or get the new car, why don't we just continue doing this? Why don't we just alternate trips? Because one, it's more eco-friendly, it's cheaper for both of us, and it's fun having a little buddy in the morning to go to work with. I will admit, sometimes I actually really do enjoy my quiet time before work. So that's why I do enjoy taking the bus and having like headphones or reading a book or doing my own drives. And that doesn't mean you have to stop that completely, but if you like carpooled once a week or twice a week or something, That actually does make a difference. This is what I'm saying. You don't need to be doing these things perfectly. You just need to be doing it in the best way that works for you, and it makes a difference. Driving smart. If you have to drive, which I know a lot of people do, I do. I'm not going to be one to say that I'm just going to completely stop driving in order to be sustainable, because it's not feasible for my life, and I'm not going to try and shame myself for that. But I know that since I do have to drive, I can drive in smart ways that are relatively sustainable. And by that, I mean turning off the engine when you're idle, when you're not driving, when you're just sitting in a car park, or you're just sitting to wait to pick somebody up. Why are you having your engine running? First of all, it's a bit of an annoyance with the sound, and there's still the exhaust pumping emissions into the air when you're not even moving. Why? Why? Literally just why? Some people do it for the AC, but you can just open the windows. Like, why do we need to have the car on when we're not moving? It's a very easy way of reducing your emissions. Decluttering your car. I didn't think about this one. Decluttering your car, because the less weight that you have in your car, the less fuel it is to move it forward. So that's just, I mean, it's a very like, it's one of those things that you just don't think about. Let's say you are one of those people who has a bunch of stuff in their car all the time. That's weighing your car down and causing you to need more fuel to move forward in your car. That is something that you can change to actually be a bit more sustainable. These are the little creative ways that the things that you don't think about that actually make a difference on the planet, even in small ways, but it's all incremental. Oh, also, this is just kind of a courtesy to the rest of humanity and the people around you, and also a courtesy to yourself and a courtesy to the planet. Please keep your car properly maintained. Check your car, get it serviced, get it, checked by your mechanic. The things that people don't do that could actually reduce so many emissions. When you see a car going along and they've just got massive exhaust fumes just pumping from their car, how annoying that can be for other drivers in terms of the smell, in terms of the smoke everywhere, and also it's just honestly shit for the planet. I mean, that can be prevented. And I know that that's one of those ones where it's like, I thought we were doing this on a budget, Naomi. It takes money to fix my car and stuff. Yeah, I understand, but then I just listed other ways in which you can like be sustainable. Maybe you don't have to drive, so you can save money to fix your car. Maybe you can carpool, maybe you can take public transport. I don't know. There's other ways of doing it. There's always a workaround. And also, just do your best. Just try your best with what you've got in terms of how you can fix your car. Oh, tire pressure. Tire pressure is another one that I did not know about. So, apparently, when your tire pressure is low, it actually uses more fuel to power the car forward. I didn't I was not aware of that, but that's an interesting one. So keep your tire pressure up, guys. Traveling when necessary and consider staycations. So, yeah, I know this is one that has been circulating around for a bit, where it's like travel less on planes, like don't travel on planes and that kind of thing. And I agree to a certain extent, but I also understand that people need to travel at times, for personal, professional reasons. There's a whole medley of them. But also people just like vacation. I get that. Um and I'm not saying don't travel the world, but try and think about, is there a way that I can either reduce emissions when I'm traveling, or only travel when I really, really, really know that I want to? Or what I love, try and see where you can vacation where you are. Think about the country that you live in. There's probably so many areas in your country, depending on where you live, that you haven't actually visited and you haven't, explored, and that you could vacation and enjoy. Why not explore those? Why not try those? There's so many places in the UK, and I know I've only been here for a year, but there's lots of different places in the UK that I haven't been to that I would absolutely staycation in. I've lived in Barbados my entire life, but I would still staycation in Barbados any day. I think that there's just so much beauty in seeing where you live in a different light. And I feel like more people should tap into that instead of just glamorizing going abroad all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. I absolutely encourage learning about other cultures and experiencing different places, but one, we've got a planet to save, and two, there's just so much beauty in the world that's already around you. Now, we're venturing on to purchasing goods and online shopping and that kind of thing. So, unfortunately, there are a lot of sustainable brands that tend to be quite expensive. And I understand why sustainable brands are expensive. It's because it takes a lot to be a sustainable brand. But if we're talking about being sustainable on a budget, it's difficult for me to include sustainable brands in the list. So I found some other ways in which you can be sustainable when you're purchasing things. The do I really, really need or want this thing approach. I have been practicing this for as long as I can remember. And I think it has to do with the fact that I never really grew up as like a consumption person. Um, I don't know if that was for sustainable reasons or if it was just like a moral thing that my family taught me about like you don't need to have every single thing, or if it's just something else that I'm not conscious of. But I've never been one that's like enjoyed mass shopping or overconsumption. And I've always had the mentality of, do I really, really need this or do I really want this? Because I understand that there's a difference between need and want, and you don't always have to only get what you need. I absolutely encourage indulging in your pleasures sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with rewarding yourself. There's nothing wrong with getting something that you like and you want. But do you really want it? Like make an effort to think about how much you actually want this thing, or is this an impulse buy? Is this something that you just don't you never really thought about before, but you saw it and it was like, "Oh, maybe I like that." And you get it. Or is it just like, "Oh, you're fascinated by this thing and you just buy it because you were fascinated with it in the moment?" I tend to really be very mindful about the purchases that I'm making. And it annoys people sometimes because they're just like, why don't you just get it? And I'm like, because I don't really need it and I don't know if I really, really want it. Like, personally, I do this thing where I have a list of things that I really want or really need to get. And it's not like a shopping list per se, it's more so things or pieces of clothing or whatever it is that I've always kind of wanted or know that I've wanted for a while, and I have it on there. So when I'm shopping next time, I'll look specifically for things that are on that list and not just go into a store and buy whatever's hot, you know? And it helps so much. It really does help me quite a lot because then one, I'm building out a set of things that I know that I really actually wanted or really needed. For example, with clothes, clothes is a big thing for me. Whenever I go shopping, I find so many nice statement pieces that I love, but then I don't really buy staples because when you see a vest or when you see a pair of jeans or when you see just a t-shirt that's basic, any basics, it's hard to be enticed by them because they're not as exciting as when you see statement pieces like a really cool top or a really cool dress or a really cool pair of pants. It's not the same. So I will step away from shopping and I'll make a list of things that I know I really need and would actually advance my wardrobe, or that I could wear with multiple outfits, or if it's not just outfits, if it's things and items of things that I actually really want and really need, I'll put that on the list, and then when I'm going out next time to shop, then I will make sure that I get those things specifically and not just impulse buy. And it helps me so much because I spend less money, I budget better, and I get things that actually benefit me. And I don't have just a mass or a horde of things that are not benefiting my life. So I really recommend this to people. Thrifting and charity shops or family and friends secondhand things, that's a given. I feel like I don't even need to spend too much time on this, but you can really find such good things in charity shops or thrifting or from secondhand stuff. It's shocking sometimes the things that you can find that are actually quite good quality, because some people are like, oh, they're probably all just shitty quality and they're all just old and like tattered and whatever. But it's just so not true. I find so many good things in charity shops or secondhand shops. Reusing items. I do this all the time. All the time. I mean, There's so many ways in which you can like reuse things. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one as well because I think that this is also a very specific one, and I'm not going to go into the ways in which you can reuse every single item, but like there's so many ways in which you can reuse items. So do a little bit of a search online. If you have an item that you no longer want, or it's no longer serving its original purpose, look up online or look up in ChatGPT or something and see what are the ways in which I can reuse this, or what how can I still keep this around to benefit me? You know what I mean? Try and preserve things is the main crux of this whole thing. And on that same vein, learning basic mending or sewing, mend your items or fix your items before you just get rid of them. If it's just like a piece of clothing has like a hole in it, don't that's not grounds to throw it away. I mean, if it's falling apart by the seams and everything and it's really bad, then yeah. But if it's just one hole or one tear or something, why are you throwing it away when it's just an easy little sew that you can fix? And it doesn't take that long to learn basic sewing or basic mending. So I think that this is something that could really help a lot of people and also, of course, help the planet. And when we venture into online shopping, I think it's the same mentality of the do I really want or need this approach, but also things like batching your orders or avoiding next day delivery or returning things less really helps with the transport fees and with the kind of just the main thing with online shopping in terms of emissions, the main reason that it has so many emissions is because of the transportation to deliver and return items. That's the main reason why online shopping tends to be not great for the planet. So if you batch your orders so that you're not just doing one order by one order by one order, or express shipping, which takes like it's a shorter way of shipping things, but then you don't fill up the truck enough. Apparently the way it works is that if you're doing express shipping, they're going to try and get it to you as soon as possible. So it's not going to be a full truckload of items. It's probably just going to be a couple items that are express shipped, and then that's one journey, and then they have to go back and do like a different set of things to deliver. But if you batch your orders one, and if you don't do express shipping, then they fill up the truck completely before they go and ship things out, and that's way better because obviously it's less trips, and obviously if you return things less, it's less travel for them to pick it up and then take it back and all that stuff, you know what I mean? So and returning less is honestly just you being more accountable with your purchases. So make sure you check the sizings of things. Make sure you look at the reviews. The reviews are so incredibly important. Make sure you look at picture reviews, detailed reviews of things. If it doesn't have a review, consider whether you want to buy it. It's just all those little checks to make sure that your purchase is actually something you really want or need, or something that is actually going to benefit your life. And it once again, it saves you so much money to do these things. It doesn't just save the planet, but it helps you as well. And now onto the final and fifth thing, the most, well, it's actually, I say that with a grain of salt. It might not be the most massive thing because I haven't looked that up. So don't hold me accountable to that, but I know it is a massive thing in terms of emissions in everyday life. Food wastage. There's so many ways in which we can reduce our food wastage in our everyday lives that really don't make that much of a difference in terms of how much effort we have to put into this kind of thing, but it does make a massive difference in terms of the impact that it has on our world. I cannot rave enough about meal planning. I don't do it as much as I should. Oh, I really wish that I meal prepped more because honestly, it's so so good. It's so good to do meal prepping. If you just take one day of your week to like plan your meals out for the rest of the week, just make a big batch of food and like break it up into different meals for the rest of the week, or just make like small meals and package them in your fridge or in your freezer for the rest of the week. It's so good. It saves you so much time. It saves you so much money on eating out. And it just is just really satisfying to know that you have lunch set out, or you have breakfast, or whatever it is that you're meal prepping. You've just got it sorted. You feel like you got your life together. It just makes you feel just like good about yourself. I don't know. But it's also just really good in terms of food wastage because you're not buying food every single day. You're not cooking new foods every single day. You are being very smart about how you manage your meals. Now, I know for the majority of households, we have like bits of food kind of just around our house that we don't. That sounds really bad. Hold on. I'm actually not explaining this properly at all. But you know how you don't use every single item of food in your kitchen? You're not going to use every single spice. You're not going to use every single meat product or whatever. I don't know. Just everyone has like just these little bits of stuff in their kitchen that they don't use. Maybe you have like a little bit of flour left back from when you cooked a batch of cookies last month and you just don't know what to do with it. Maybe you've got a little bit of pasta left back. Maybe you've got some sauces left back, some spices, but whatever. It's just like stuff that's kind of there that's not enough to make a full kind of meal and you just don't know what to do with it. I feel like everybody has that. And so if it's just me, I'm going to feel so alone. But like I know that everyone has this because I've gone to so many people's houses and everybody's it's not like you have just food that you will use up and your entire kitchen is empty at one point. No one's entire kitchen is empty. There's always something kind of there that's not enough to make a meal. So, anyway, let AI plan your meals from what you've already got in your home. There might be all these little bits of stuff around that don't make sense, but throw it all into AI and I promise you, you will be shocked by what it comes up with. Honestly, I have been shocked so many times by how many meals I can make with stuff at home that I thought that I had no food in the house. And it saves so much and it honestly helps you from throwing things away. Leftovers is massively, I love leftovers. I think my family really is a leftover family. We really love to make a large batch of food and then just use the leftovers throughout the week. It's kind of like meal prepping in itself because I then have lunch for at least half of the week ahead. And it's just, it's convenient. I can be as lazy as I want with my food because there's always leftovers around and we're not throwing food away. Speaking of not throwing food away, freezing certain foods. I think it's really fascinating how long foods can be preserved by freezing things. Obviously, don't test this theory and be gross and try and freeze a certain type of food for like a year or something. But if you freeze certain things that are about to go off, but you just don't have the time or you the space to eat it. Let's say you have a loaf of bread and it's kind of coming to that time where it's gonna go off if you don't eat the rest of it today. Freeze it. Freeze it and you can use it again. There's so many foods that you can freeze. If you let's say you make a bunch of soup and you have too much soup left back, put it in a bowl, put it in a freezer, and eat it again in like 2 weeks. It's fine. This is one of those tactics in terms of reducing food wastage. There's so much food that we throw away that honestly shocks me. I hated working in restaurants because whenever people send back food because it wasn't the specific type of order they wanted or they just didn't they weren't feeling it. They took 2 bites and they weren't feeling it. We throw an entire meal away. There's so much food wastage that happens in restaurants. Why are we going to perpetuate that practice at home? I don't think that there's a reason for it, and I feel like we can fight against that. Not that I'm starting a revolution against food wastage, but I just think it's one of those things that is very, very avoidable and once again saves you so much money. Anyway, these all of these things under these five main emission producing things and everyday practices are super easy, very affordable, and in many ways make your own life cheaper. And like I said, you don't have to try to do every single one of these things perfectly. You don't even have to try and do every single one at all. If you want to, by all means, do that. By all means, do that. You'll be making a massive impact, but just do what works best for you. What works best for you in your life, what feels feasible for you in your life. Do it and it will make a difference. I don't do every single one of these things. I do a good few of these things, but I don't do them perfectly either. But I do them and I make an effort, and that's all you need. Going back to the quote of the day, we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. Anne Marie Bonneau. That's who said that. That's all you need, guys. And that's all you have from me today. Thank you so much for listening. I really, really enjoyed talking to you guys as always. I will see you again next Tuesday. And if you want more of the Notes and Quotes podcast, please check us out on our socials. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. And please, please, please do the listener survey. If you guys hated this conversation, it felt like nothing to you, or if you loved it and you want more conversations like this, I want to know about all of these things that you're feeling. So just go to the show notes and you can find our listener survey. It takes literally less than a minute to fill out, and it actually helps me so much in creating the best possible podcast for you, because that's who I'm doing this for. I really appreciate you listening, and I will see you again next Tuesday. As I said, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day or night or whatever time it is where you are. I love you, and I'll see you again next Tuesday. Okay, bye.